Hello, and welcome to the first video of the Build Your Business on Botpress series. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an AI agent template for a specific business niche and show you how to configure it for your clients. Focusing on a specific niche as well as having a deep understanding of the market is by far the best way to sell AI agents. We've worked with hundreds of builders, agencies, freelancers, and this is a recipe for success that we've observed. We've also observed that the successful teams have at least one person who is good at selling and one person who is good at coding. So before moving forward, let's look at a success story. Okay, so let's show you an example of a business targeting a specific niche. So this is Realty AI. It's one of the first search results for real estate AI on Google in Canada. And so you can see here what they do. Their bots, amongst other things, book meetings and capture leads, and they're built for real estate professionals. So they have existing customers, as we can see over here, all of which are real estate professionals. And so let's say we go to the website of one of their customers, so Megan Gracie. If we go here, we'll notice that she has a chatbot on the bottom right of her website, and we can chat with it, right? So this is a real estate chatbot. And so now let's take a look at their pricing, okay? So they have 3 tiers. Yeah, the $100 plan, the $250 plan, and the custom enterprise plan. And so with the middle tier being $250 a month, which is often where most money comes from, they're successful because they've targeted a niche that they know about, they know the market, and of course they had the technical know-how on how to build such a platform. So in reality, getting to this point is achievable in a step-by-step manner. So when getting started building a bot to fill a business need, we suggest building it for one customer and then transforming it into a template that you can reuse and sell to multiple other clients. And we have a ton of content on our YouTube channel on how to build bots. It's easy, don't worry. For the rest of this video, however, I will show you how to create a useful template from an existing bot. So let's dive in. Alrighty, so let's take a look at this real estate bot that I had created. It has 0 scalability. You cannot sell it to multiple clients because everything within it is hard-coded. There's no configuration, no customization, especially for the web chat, which I will show you in a bit. So if we look at our initial greeting here, so the conversation begins, and so you're greeted with "Welcome to Botpress Agency," this fictitious agency that I had created. We have 20 years of experience. Our business hours are 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're located within the city of Dubai. So of course, this is all specific for the agency that I had created, and this isn't something that you could sell, but I'll show you how to make this configurable. So then let's just look at the rest of the bot real quick. So then we tell the user, well, you have some initial choices. Would you like to see the latest listing? Would you like to ask about all of our listings? Would you like to ask about regulations and financing options? Would you like to get sent to an agent? So meaning that you are now speaking to a human rather than a bot. And then of course you can end the conversation. So let's take a look at this before we dive in onto how to scale this and make this something that you could sell. Let's look at what the bot is currently like. So it still says by Botpress. There's no configuration, no styling. So let's just go bare bones, say hi to our bot. And so of course we get the greeting that I had mentioned beforehand, and we get a make a choice. So I want to see the latest listing. And so now it's going to fetch it and grab all of the information on it. And so this is the latest listing. It's a bit pricey. So I would like to see some more details on it. More details on this luxuriously furnished 3-bedroom fountain view. Of course, I could have just clicked contact agent. However, I would like to see some, so 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. This is way outside of my price range. So let me go back to the main menu. And when I say go back to main menu, I'm utilizing our the transition card that I had created, where I basically set the condition to user explicitly states to return to main menu, and we return to initial greetings. I have that at the end of each of these options. So then I'm going to say ask about listings. And now it's going to fetch every single listing. And then after doing so, it's going to ask me, what exactly am I looking for? So I'm looking for an apartment, 1 bedroom, mid-range pricing. Now the mid-range pricing might be a lie for the API that I'm pulling from because it's from a very expensive area, so which is why you could see we're getting very luxurious housings. So let's take a look here. Okay, and of course I can view the details of each of these. So we got our latest listing here actually. Oh no, that's not our latest listing. We got another luxuriously furnished, maybe from the same agency because it seems like it's the same writing style. And so we got a carousel of basically all of the listings that fit my description for this area, for this API. And so I'm going to go back to the main menu. And I can ask about the regulations and financing. So the way that I did it for this bot was I created a knowledge base and I stored 2 hard-coded PDFs for some random PDFs that I found for housing options in Montreal. And so of course I can ask about this. And so it's going to fetch the info from those PDFs and then I can continuously ask questions about them. But I'm just going to see what it says initially and then I'll go back and try to talk to a real human being. So yeah, so it's telling me about the regulations. Montreal's rental market is regulated, blah, 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 blah. Good credit score, down payment, sure, whatever. Okay, let me go back to main menu. I want to speak to a human being now. I think I've got all the information that I could from the bot. I want to get sent to an actual real estate agent. So what is my name? My name is Matthew. And my email is botpress.com. And so now we've escalated this conversation to a human agent. And normally what you would say is you'd probably use a configuration to basically pull the business hours of your client and then say, well, these are our business hours. This is when you should expect a reply. But we didn't do that for this simple version or variant of the bot. So let's go to our dashboard. Let's look at human in the loop. And so basically, look, 26 seconds ago, so this is the admin side. So this is what the agent would see. And so as we can see, okay, so I have all of the conversation history. And so now let me join. So let me assign this to myself. And let's go look at the web chat preview. So Matthew Petruzzello has joined the conversation. It's detecting my account that I'm logged into, my admin account. And so I'm just going to start talking to the bot now. So to the person, I'm going to say, hi, what do you need? Whatever. And if we go back here, we should see the conversation. And so now I'm no longer chatting with the bot, but I'm chatting with a human that joined the conversation. The human's done, I'm done. He's going to send me back to the bot. And the conversation is closed. And that agent closed the conversation. I will continue assisting you. And that pretty much sums up how this works. And now, of course, I would just end the conversation, which would take me back. So yeah, now let's figure out how to scale this. So the first thing that I would do to make this more scalable is by implementing configuration variables in which you configure each time you get a new client. So the way you would do this is you would go to your bot settings, you'd go to configuration variables here, and obviously you access them through env, so environment dot and then the name of the configuration variable. So I would do something like agency name, right? And here I would type, for my case, Botpress, right? Because I'm configuring it for myself. But of course, when you have new users or once you have a new client, you would obviously come here and change these configuration variables specifically for that client. So it's as if you're just exporting the bot, changing the configuration variables, changing some other things I'll explain later, and then selling it. So then we'll have the agency website, which we'll store in here. So agency website. Let me just grab the Botpress website like that. And then you'd go like, I don't know, agency phone, right? To tell, maybe in your message you want to say contact the agency here. Or you want to put within your bot the agency email. That's something else that maybe you'd want to store. And so in this case, I'll put my email. Or you may want to put the agency location. So where is it located? So for us, in our fictitious agency, we said Dubai, right? If you remember from our initial greeting message. And now for like CSS and maybe for other purposes, you might store the branding color here. So you ask them to give you their color. You might ask them for the URL of their logo, right? And in our case, it's stored here. And you might ask them for their slogan. Maybe you want to change something within the bot. Maybe you want the bot to greet them with their slogan, right? I just have this random sentence here, right? So you have all these things that you can use. And then for human in the loop, I would also create some agent variables like agent name, right? When you're transitioning to a human. Or I would put the agent phone number. So this is the phone number of the actual agent themselves. So agent phone, let's say. And I would say the agent email. So for me, it's the same in both cases. But of course, the agency themselves and the agency, the agency email and the agent email should probably be different. And then, of course, you have the business hours, right? So 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. EST for us. So you'd have something like, agency business hours. I would say the agency specialties, because some agencies might only specialize in apartments or only condos. In our fictitious case, we have apartments, condos, and houses. And in the years of experience, right? Of course, so agency years, we have 20 years of experience. And then for, I would say the agency realtor, this is going to be important for later. We'll say, so the realtor that I took from, so the API that I was using to grab the apartments from the previous segment of this video was a website called Bayut. So this is important. I'll explain later. But for now, let's just set up our configuration variables as we like and fill in the information for our specific client. And so this is my fictitious client that I created. And so now in my initial greeting, right, I'm going to change up my initial greeting because everything here was hard-coded, right? I don't want to constantly have to come back to the bot. I want to just export my bot, change my configuration variables, and then resell, right? Copy, paste, reselling. And so I could do that now. So now that I have this environment, I could say, and environment.agency name. I no longer have to rewrite and hard-code these sort of things because now they're stored within variables that are exported when I export my bot. And so then I could say, well, we have a full portfolio here. Well, I don't need this because I have environment.agency specialties, right? And for 20 years, well, I don't need to say that because, well, we now have our, what do I call it? Agency years. We now have the years of experience as a variable. And so Dubai, well, this is hard-coded. I don't really need to say that anymore because, well, we said that the agency location is stored within the environment as well. So env.agency location. And what else can we change? Send to an agent. Oh yeah, business hours. We don't need this anymore, right? Because that's also stored within a variable. So environment.agency business hours. Yes. Okay, so now nothing in here is hard-coded. Everything is stored within variables. So what I'm going to do is every time I export my bot in order to sell it to a new client, I'm just going to go to my configuration variables, change them up, and then not have to change anything with my bot, and just, that's it, right? As simple as that. So I paste the variable names here, and it's going to call the value stored within here. Okay, is there anything else that I should change? I will get to the code in the next segment. We will discuss how the code works for the API calling in a bit and what I would do to scale it. Maybe what you could do is when you're getting, when you're escalating to an agent, I recommend changing some stuff here. So right now, when we escalate to an agent, we don't really have, like, we just say new ticket from this guy. I don't really have a real description, username, blah, 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 blah. What I would do now is I would say ticket from environment.agency name, right? And for the ticket description, what you could do is you can call the summary. So we have something called the summary agent within Botpress, which basically saves a summary of the entire conversation. And the reason why I would do that is because I want to give the agent the description of the ticket. And in order to automatically give a description of the ticket, it'd be best to give a summary of the entire conversation that the user had with the bot, right? So the way that we do that is we say conversation.summary agent, agent.summary. And so basically this is an agent that, like I said, it will read all of the context between the bot and the human, and the user rather, and then create a summary of it, and then send that to the agent. So when the agent picks up the ticket, without having to read maybe the long wall of text, they can read the summary and have an in-depth understanding right off the bat. And so of course I'll leave this as workflow.name and workflow.email. And maybe for tickets, a good practice that you could do is you could try to maybe create like an execute code card and store each ticket within a table, right? So you can have a record of this for each of your clients. And so what I would do is I have some code on the side here. Let me just copy paste it. Or yeah, so basically all it does is it's a random number generator, and it stores it within a workflow variable called random number. So basically, let me just create that. So I'd create a number, call it random number, add it. Let's look, is there an error? No, it's perfect. And yeah, and so it will check if the random number exists within ticket table. If it does, then it will regenerate. If it doesn't, then it will use that number. And so ticket table looks like this. I already created it. It's basically this table here, and we have the random number, and then we have the conversation history. So let's do that. Let's add a card to insert a record into a table, and we'll select a ticket table, and we'll put the conversation history as well, the same thing that we just did. So conversation.summary agent.summary, and we'll set the number to workflow.random number. Oh, I need to store it like that with the @ sign. Whoops. Perfect. Like that. And so that's how I would configure this bot using configuration variables. Now let's dive into the next part, which is modifying the styling of the web chat, and then modifying how I would modify code for API calls depending on different agents and agencies. All right, so now let's make our web chat look beautiful. And before we do that though, let's discuss the scope of our configuration variables. So the scope of our configuration variables is basically everything within the studio. So when we were editing the workflows, when we were editing the bot itself, that's where we can actually use these configuration variables. However, everything outside of that, we can't use them. So why am I saying this? This is important because now when you get a new client and you're going to export and import your bot and make changes, this means that not only do you have to change your configuration variables, but you're also going to have to manually change the web chat because the web chat is outside of the studio, so we can't use configuration variables there. However, super easy, super simple. Let's go over it right now. I'm in my Botpress dashboard. So if I click edit in studio, this is what's going to allow me to edit the workflow. But instead of going there, I want to go to my web chat. And so here we can actually edit this web chat. So basically, we start with the bot name. So for me, it's going to be Botpress agency. If I grab an image, so let me just grab our Botpress logo. So clean, so beautiful. For our description, I'll just put build better with Botpress. Composer placeholder, that doesn't matter. So hide by Botpress. So basically you see this little by Botpress that was there during the beginning of the video. Let's get rid of that. So instead of having show, I'm going to put it as hide, and then I'm going to put my contact information so that's accessible when embedding, or when on the web chat rather, or when embedding the web chat as well. And so let me put that. Let me put our terms of service. Let me put our privacy statement, and that's perfect. And that's it. So just have your client send you this information, right? The contact information, whatever, the name, the logo, the color scheme, and just click save. And we should see it update on the side. And we're also going to change the coloring now as well. So as you can see, it's still blue. I don't like that. I want to use the hashtag 2D, right? So basically I'm going to go here. What was the coloring again? It was like hashtag 2D. That's the one that I saved. Yeah, something like that. Oh yeah, okay, I see it. There you go. And that's it. And now my bot should look nice. Actually, let's just do it live. Let's go take a look at it. Does she look pretty? Let's see. Does my bot look nice? So now let's just publish the bot. So let's click publish. We should wait a little bit and then click the shareable link. So as you can see, we have all the settings here, hide by Botpress, and whatnot. The theme is set. Is it going to publish? Should take a little bit of time. Okay, we have the shareable link. As you can see, the bot was published on Human in the Loop and web chat. So let's get the web chat link. Let's paste it. And it looks perfect. It looks just like I want it, right? The Botpress agency, build better with Botpress, right? We have our logo, we have our color scheme. The show by Botpress, right, over here is missing, right? If we go try to put it back, just to show you what I was talking about, if we go back now, I think I have to oh no, I have to save, sorry. Okay, now if I refresh, you see it's there. And then if I take it off, we can white label Botpress so that our clients don't know where we got the bot from. So then if I refresh, it's gone. All right, and so the final section of trying to make this bot as scalable as possible, right? This bot that I had initially created, I want to look at the getting of the properties, right, from the API. So basically we have see latest listing and we have ask about listings. So getting all the listings and getting only the latest listing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it and let me look at the code. So obviously this is going to be different for your use cases. In fact, some of your businesses might not even need these really long execute code cards. For instance, if you have if your agency is for making restaurant AIs where all you're doing is booking, you're taking orders, for instance, or you're asking questions about a fixed restaurant menu, you probably won't need an execute code card. However, in the case of real estate, we need to fetch from a constantly updating database. So in this case, I'm using an API. And so basically, this is how it works. So we have the actual information about the API here. And then I'm basically, I'm just grabbing the latest property and saving it within a workflow variable called property data. Now, once again, everyone's gonna have a different use case, but you should take the general ideas that I'm about to talk about right now seriously. So what I would do in this case is I would, this works for one agency and for one specific realtor. So each agency is gonna look towards one realtor. And so we have this sort of overarching data structure, right? So we have the realtor, okay? And then basically you're gonna have different agencies under this realtor, right? So then you'll have like agency 1, agency 2, agency 3. So the thing is that when you're trying to, in my case, right, of course, for your specific use case, you're gonna have to plan this out yourself. You're gonna have to plan out the data structure. For my use case, I have different realtors that each have different agencies, which basically, real estate agencies, which are sort of like the sub realtor. I guess you could think of it in your mind, or at least that's the way I see it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna do one tab. So I'm gonna click tab once to indent it one time, and then I'm gonna indent it again. I'm going to explain why. So basically my overarching switch case. So this is why I said beforehand, you need someone who's good at development, who's good at data structures, and you need someone who's good at marketing to sell your product. So we'll say I'll make a switch case, which the switch case is basically going to check for the realtor, which was stored within the environment, right? So agency realtor. And so basically what this is going to do, you just do that and then, whoops. Yes. Okay. So basically what this does is that this switch case is going to basically check the configuration variable and then basically try to match it with each of the cases. So for instance, my first case was I used Bayut. So within my configuration variable, if we remember, I stored quote unquote Bayut. So I said case Bayut. And then you're gonna have to put a break at the end, and then under here you'd put break. So that's the case, and then you could have other cases. So then, if you're dealing with other realtors, so if another agency comes by and says, "Well, hey, I don't work with Bayut, I work with Realtor.ca," so then you'd have a new case. You'd say case for Realtor.ca, and then you'd put that, and then you'd put your handling of when it's that specific realtor. Then you put break, and then you do your other case. Right? Your case when it's, I don't know, Matthew is the best, sure. And then you have your break again. And so whenever you have a new agency come by, if they're working with a new realtor that you're unfamiliar with a new API that you're unfamiliar with, of course you should get either the information from them or find the information online and then build your cases upon that. Now, for building the actual cases of the name of the agency, because of course, when I had initially made this bot, I was getting information on all agencies. But what if I only want a specific agency? I'm gonna have to look into getting info only, or getting all info and rather only displaying the information that matches with the agency that I want. So how would I do that? So basically I would leave this the same. So I'm handling it the same way, but within my try catch. So basically I have my response here. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say constant. I'm going to create this constant. I'm going to say agency properties, right, is equal to list response.data.hits.filter. So I'm basically filtering the property with property.agency.name is equal to the environment agency name. And oh yeah, because I called it list responses when I had first built the bot, but I changed it up a bit. You would change it now to response, sorry. And there you go. So basically what this does for my specific API, of course it's gonna be different for everybody. So for my specific API, I'm basically filtering the hits. So basically the properties I'm getting, and I'm only displaying the properties in which the property agency name is equal to the agency name I stored within my environment. And that's how I'm doing my filters. And so I don't have to constantly rewrite the script based on the agency name. I could just store it within my environment and then check matching within the code itself. So then I'll just say like, okay, sure, like this is checking agency name matches, right? I should probably have like an if check. Like I should probably check if it returned empty, because the problem is that when you're checking for specific agency name matches, it's possible that your agency hasn't published anything on the API yet, and this will and you could get an error. So I should probably do a check for that. So if agency properties, right, which is what I just stored it in, dot length, right, this is something that your developer would have to check. If it's 0, then I should probably set the workflow.property data to be to be something like no properties found. And then obviously the autonomous node, right? So your bot will or I should because it's not stringed, right? So I'll make a new workflow property, something like latest property equals no properties found, and then do a sad face, and the autonomous node is going to pick that up. Then of course break, and so that we get out of the block. And yeah, and so then here obviously it becomes much more complex now. I have some code on the side for this. Let me just grab it. This is what I was doing earlier. Let me just grab that and replace this. And I accidentally grabbed the catch error. Whoops. And yeah, and so here I called it latest property on the spot. And yeah, and so basically what to take away from this is this part here where I'm actually writing the code out is not important for you, because you're probably not, or at least I hope not, that you're copying exactly what I'm doing and that you're just trying to get info from this. And so the info that I would take away from this is that if ever you're trying to do something specific in terms of fetching from an API, I would have a switch case, and I would make sure that whatever you're pulling matches what's stored within your environment. So doing checks like this, right? So where I was checking that the property agency name pulled from the API is actually equal to the agency name stored within my environment. And of course, depending on which realtor they're using, each realtor has a different API, right? So Matthew is the best, is gonna have a different API. Realtor.ca is gonna have a different API. Bayut had a different way of handling it. So each way should have a different way, should have a different coding solution. And every time you get a new client, you may have to add this case. But eventually you, for your location, you should build up enough cases where you'll never have to touch this code ever again, pretty much, right? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. That pretty much sums up how to scale a bot that you've made for one client into many clients. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next one.